The morning mist clung to the training grounds as Elena Volkov stepped off the military transport truck. Her boots hit the gravel with a soft thud, and she adjusted the heavy duffel bag on her shoulder. Around her, dozens of soldiers were already gathering for the special operations briefing, their voices mixing with the distant sound of artillery practice. Elena was 24 years old, with sharp green eyes and blonde hair pulled back in a regulation bun. She had spent 3 years in the regular army before applying for the elite sniper program. Her application had been accepted, though she suspected it was more for diversity purposes than her actual skills. The skeptical looks from her fellow trainees confirmed her suspicions. "Look what we got here," muttered Sergeant Rodriguez, a grizzled veteran with arms covered in tattoos. He nudged his companion, Corporal Martinez, who was cleaning his rifle nearby. "They're really scraping the bottom of the barrel now." Elena pretended not to hear the comment as she found an empty spot to set up her gear. The training facility was impressive, with state-of-the-art equipment and ranges that stretched for miles into the wilderness. This was where the military's best snipers were made, where precision and patience were valued above all else. Captain Thompson, the commanding officer, emerged from the main building with a clipboard in hand. He was a tall man with steel-gray hair and eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Behind him walked Master Sergeant Davis, whose reputation preceded him. Davis was known as one of the finest marksmen in the entire military, with confirmed kills in 3 different conflicts. "Listen up, recruits," Captain Thompson's voice cut through the morning air. "You're here because you think you have what it takes to be a sniper. Let me tell you right now, most of you will wash out within the first week. Sniper training isn't about being tough or brave. It's about being invisible, patient, and deadly accurate under impossible conditions." Elena stood at attention with the others, feeling the weight of their stares. She was one of only 2 women in the group of 30 recruits, and the other woman looked just as uncomfortable as she felt. The male soldiers around them whispered among themselves, making no effort to hide their doubts. "The first phase of training will test your basic marksmanship skills," Master Sergeant Davis announced, his voice carrying the authority of years of experience. "You'll be assigned rifles and given 3 days to familiarize yourselves with the equipment. After that, we begin the real tests." As the group moved toward the armory, Elena noticed how the other recruits naturally formed small groups. The men clustered together, sharing jokes and stories about their previous military experience. She and the other woman, who introduced herself as Private Chen, walked mostly in silence. The armory was an impressive sight, filled with some of the most advanced sniper rifles in the world. Elena's eyes immediately went to a particular weapon mounted on the wall, a custom-built rifle that seemed different from all the others. It was sleek and beautiful, with modifications that spoke of countless hours of precision work. "That one's not for rookies," said Corporal Martinez, following her gaze. "That's a special piece. You need to earn the right to even touch something like that." Elena nodded politely but said nothing. She had studied weapons extensively during her regular army service and could tell this rifle was something extraordinary. The scope alone probably cost more than most soldiers made in a year. As they were assigned their training rifles, Elena couldn't help but notice they were giving her one of the older models. It wasn't broken or unusable, but it was clearly not the same quality as what some of the male recruits received. She accepted it without complaint, knowing that proving herself would require more than just having the best equipment. That evening, as the recruits settled into their barracks, the conversations continued. Elena lay on her narrow bunk, listening to the others share stories about their backgrounds. Many came from infantry units where they had distinguished themselves as marksmen. Others had hunting experience from childhood that had translated well to military service. "What about you, Volkov?" called out Sergeant Rodriguez from across the room. "What makes you think you can hang with the big boys?" Elena sat up, aware that all eyes were on her. This was a moment that would set the tone for her entire experience in the program. She could either try to blend in quietly or stand her ground. "I qualified expert marksman in my unit," she said simply. "Same as most of you, I imagine." "Expert marksman in the regular army isn't the same as being a sniper," scoffed another recruit. "Out here, you're dealing with targets at impossible distances, wind calculations, and shots that matter. One mistake and people die. "I understand that," Elena replied calmly. "That's why I'm here to learn." The conversation moved on, but Elena could feel the weight of their skepticism. She knew she would have to prove herself not just once, but over and over again. Every shot would be scrutinized, every mistake magnified, and every success dismissed as luck. As she finally drifted off to sleep, Elena thought about the long road ahead. She had faced doubt and discrimination before in her military career, but never at this level. The sniper program represented the pinnacle of marksmanship, and she was determined to show that she belonged here, regardless of what anyone else thought. The first week of training was brutal. Elena woke up before dawn each day, her muscles aching from the previous day's exercises. The instructors pushed them through grueling physical challenges designed to test their endurance and mental toughness. Crawling through mud for hours while carrying heavy equipment, maintaining perfect shooting positions for extended periods, and memorizing complex ballistic calculations became her daily routine. During the marksmanship tests, Elena consistently performed well, but her success was often met with dismissive comments from her fellow recruits. When she hit a target at 600 yards on her first attempt, Sergeant Rodriguez claimed it was beginner's luck. When she repeated the shot 4 more times, he said the wind conditions were unusually favorable. "You're shooting okay for a rookie," Master Sergeant Davis told her after reviewing her scores. "But consistency under pressure is what separates the real snipers from the wannabes. We'll see how you handle the advanced courses." Elena nodded respectfully, though inside she felt frustrated. Her scores were among the top 5 in the class, yet she sensed that her instructors were holding her to a different standard. She watched as male recruits with similar or even lower scores received encouragement and detailed feedback, while her achievements were minimized. The other female recruit, Private Chen, struggled more with the physical demands and was eventually transferred to a different program. This left Elena as the only woman among 28 remaining recruits. The isolation was challenging, but it also strengthened her resolve. During the second week, they began advanced field work. The recruits were divided into pairs and given missions that required them to remain hidden in designated areas for up to 12 hours, while identifying and engaging simulated targets. Elena was paired with Corporal Bennett, a quiet soldier from Alabama who seemed less hostile than some of the others. Their first mission took them to a rocky hillside overlooking a valley where instructors had placed various targets at different distances. Elena and Bennett spent hours carefully constructing a hide site using natural vegetation and camouflage netting. The work was meticulous and exhausting, requiring them to blend seamlessly with their environment. "You actually know what you're doing," Bennett admitted grudgingly as they settled into their concealed position. "I thought this was going to be a disaster." Elena adjusted her scope and began scanning the valley below. "I've been studying fieldcraft for months before coming here. I knew I'd have to be twice as good to get half the respect." As the hours passed, targets appeared and disappeared throughout the valley. Some were obvious, designed to test basic observation skills. Others were cleverly hidden, requiring patience and sharp eyes to detect. Elena spotted several targets that Bennett missed, calling them out quietly and helping him adjust his aim. When they returned to base that evening, their instructor reviewed their performance. Elena and Bennett had successfully identified and engaged more targets than any other team that day. Yet, during the debrief, most of the praise went to Bennett's shooting while Elena's contributions were barely acknowledged. "Volkov did decent spotting work," the instructor noted matter-of-factly. "Bennett showed good instincts under pressure." The pattern continued through multiple exercises. Elena's technical knowledge impressed even the instructors, but they seemed reluctant to give her full credit. She excelled at calculating wind drift and elevation adjustments, often helping struggling classmates with their calculations. Her camouflage and concealment skills were exceptional, and she could remain motionless for hours longer than most of the men. During urban warfare simulations, Elena demonstrated an intuitive understanding of using buildings and structures for concealment. She identified shooting positions that others missed and showed remarkable patience in waiting for the perfect shot opportunity. Her accuracy remained consistently high across all types of scenarios. "She's good, I'll give her that," Corporal Martinez admitted to Rodriguez one evening. "But this isn't just about hitting targets on a range. Real combat is different. The pressure, the chaos, the lives depending on you. I don't think she has what it takes when things get serious." Elena overheard the conversation but chose not to respond. She had learned that arguing would only reinforce their prejudices. Instead, she focused on her training, studying ballistics textbooks late into the night and practicing her shooting stance until muscle memory took over. The psychological pressure was intense. Elena knew that every mistake would be magnified and every success questioned. She began documenting her scores and performance metrics in a private journal, creating an objective record of her progress. The numbers didn't lie even if the recognition was lacking. 3 weeks into the program, Master Sergeant Davis announced that half the remaining recruits would be eliminated based on their performance to date. Elena felt confident in her abilities but worried about the subjective nature of the evaluation process. She had outperformed many of her male colleagues, but would that be enough? The night before the elimination announcement, Elena sat alone on her bunk, cleaning her rifle for the 100th time. The weapon had become an extension of herself, and she knew its quirks and capabilities better than anyone. She thought about her family back home, who had always supported her military ambitions despite societal expectations. Her father, a former soldier himself, had taught her to shoot when she was 12 years old. He always told her that skill and determination mattered more than what others thought. Her mother, a nurse, had shown her the importance of precision and calm under pressure. Both lessons were serving her well now. As she drifted off to sleep, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that her biggest challenges still lay ahead. The instructors were testing more than just her marksmanship skills. They were testing her resolve, her ability to persevere despite constant doubt and skepticism. She was determined not to give them any reason to question her place in the program. The elimination list was posted at dawn, and Elena's name was among the 14 recruits who survived the cut. She felt a mixture of relief and validation, though she noticed that several male recruits with lower scores had also made it through, while others with similar performance to hers had been eliminated. The selection criteria remained mysterious, but she was still in the program. Master Sergeant Davis gathered the remaining recruits for the next phase of training. Congratulations on making it this far. Now the real work begins. You'll be tested in extreme weather conditions, night operations, and scenarios that will push you beyond your comfort zones. This is where we separate the snipers from the marksmen. The advanced training took place in a remote mountain facility where conditions were deliberately harsh. Elena found herself crawling through snow in sub-freezing temperatures, maintaining accuracy while her hands were numb with cold. The physical demands were punishing, but she had spent months preparing her body for exactly these challenges. During a particularly difficult night exercise, the recruits were required to navigate to a target location using only compass and map reading skills, then establish a hide site and wait for targets to appear at dawn. Elena moved carefully through the darkness using techniques she had studied obsessively. Her patience and attention to detail paid off when she reached the designated area first and began constructing her concealment. Corporal Bennett, who had become something of an ally, arrived shortly after and set up nearby. "How do you move so quietly?" he whispered as they worked. "It's like you're part of the landscape." Elena had always been naturally light on her feet, but months of practice had refined her movement to an art form. She understood that stealth was just as important as accuracy for a sniper. "My grandmother used to take me hunting in the woods when I was young," she replied quietly. "She taught me that the forest will tell you everything if you know how to listen." As dawn approached, both snipers settled into their positions and began scanning for targets. The exercise was designed to test their ability to distinguish between civilians and enemy combatants in a simulated village scenario. Actors moved through the area below, some carrying weapons, others going about normal activities. Elena identified 3 legitimate targets over the course of 2 hours, making each shot count while carefully avoiding any engagement with non-combatants. Her patience paid off when a particularly challenging target appeared briefly in a window, nearly 800 yards away. The shot required precise calculation for wind drift and elevation, and she had only seconds to make the decision. The bullet found its mark perfectly, earning a grudging nod of approval from the observing instructor. Bennett, meanwhile, had taken 2 shots at closer targets, but missed a more difficult opportunity that Elena had successfully engaged. When the exercise concluded, their instructor reviewed the performance. Bennett showed good judgment in target selection. Volkov's long-range shot was technically sound, though she took unnecessary risks with such a difficult angle. Elena bit back her frustration. The shot had been perfectly calculated and executed, yet it was characterized as reckless rather than skillful. She was beginning to understand that proving herself would require more than just exceptional performance. It would require performance so outstanding that it couldn't be ignored or dismissed. The next phase introduced them to specialized equipment and advanced techniques. Elena excelled at using laser rangefinders, ballistic computers, and other high-tech tools that modern snipers employed. Her ability to quickly absorb technical information and apply it practically impressed even the most skeptical instructors. During a complex exercise involving multiple moving targets at varying distances, Elena demonstrated an almost intuitive understanding of lead time and trajectory. She engaged 6 targets in rapid succession, adjusting for different ranges and wind conditions with remarkable speed and accuracy. Her performance was flawless, yet the feedback remained lukewarm. Adequate performance under controlled conditions was the official assessment. Real combat situations involve variables that can't be replicated in training. Elena began to suspect that no level of performance would be sufficient to earn genuine recognition. She was being held to an impossible standard, expected to prove not just that she was competent but that she was extraordinary. The realization was both frustrating and motivating. Late one evening, while cleaning her rifle in the armory, Elena encountered Master Sergeant Davis working alone at his desk. The gruff instructor looked up from his paperwork and studied her for a long moment. "You're wondering why we're being so hard on you," he said finally. Elena paused her cleaning routine. "I'm wondering why my performance is being judged differently than everyone else's." Davis set down his pen and leaned back in his chair. "Because the enemy won't care that you're a woman. They won't give you special consideration or make allowances for your size or strength. If you go into combat as a sniper, you'll be held to the same standard as every man who came before you. The only way to prepare you for that reality is to push you harder than everyone else." "I understand that, Sergeant," Elena replied. "But pushing harder and dismissing achievement are two different things." Davis nodded slowly. "You're right, and you're performing better than most recruits I've seen. But excelling in training is only the beginning. The real test comes when lives are on the line and everything goes wrong." Elena resumed cleaning her rifle, processing the conversation. She appreciated the honesty. Even if she didn't entirely agree with the approach, she was being tested not just as a soldier, but as a woman in a traditionally male role. The pressure was immense, but it was also forging her into something stronger than she had ever been. As the weeks passed, Elena's reputation among her fellow recruits began to shift. Her consistent performance and professional attitude gradually earned respect from some of the more open-minded soldiers. Bennett became a genuine friend, and even Sergeant Rodriguez began to acknowledge her skills. Though grudgingly, the final phase of training was approaching, and Elena knew it would be the ultimate test of everything she had learned. She had survived the cuts, mastered the techniques, and proven herself repeatedly, but she sensed that the most challenging moment still lay ahead. The final phase of sniper training was announced on a gray Monday morning. Master Sergeant Davis stood before the 8 remaining recruits, his expression more serious than usual. Elena had made it through every elimination round, often performing better than her male counterparts, though recognition remained elusive. "This last exercise will determine who graduates from this program," Davis announced. "You'll be deployed to a realistic combat scenario lasting 72 hours. Everything you've learned will be tested under conditions that mirror actual warfare. Some of you will excel, others will discover they're not cut out for this work." The scenario was set in a mock urban environment, built specifically for training purposes. The recruits would work in teams to eliminate high-value targets while avoiding civilian casualties and enemy detection. Elena was paired with Rodriguez, the sergeant who had been most vocal about his doubts regarding her abilities. "Just try to keep up," Rodriguez muttered as they reviewed their mission briefing, "and don't do anything stupid that gets us both killed." Elena studied the detailed maps and intelligence reports without responding to his negativity. Their assignment was to eliminate a simulated enemy commander who would appear at one of 3 possible locations over the next 3 days. The targets would only be visible for brief windows, requiring patience, skill, and perfect timing. They moved into position under cover of darkness, establishing a hide site in an abandoned building overlooking the target area. Elena had become expert at creating concealment that was virtually undetectable, using skills that combined technical training with natural instinct. The first day passed without the target appearing. Elena and Rodriguez took turns on watch, communicating through hand signals and maintaining absolute silence. Elena noticed that Rodriguez's fieldcraft was adequate but not exceptional. He made small noises and movements that could compromise their position in real combat. On the second day, Elena spotted movement in one of the target buildings. Through her scope, she identified what appeared to be their objective, but something felt wrong. The figure's movements and positioning didn't match the intelligence briefing. She held her fire and continued observing. "Take the shot," Rodriguez whispered urgently. "That's gotta be our guy." Elena shook her head slightly, keeping her eye on the scope. Minutes later, her caution proved correct when the figure turned, revealing civilian clothing and mannerisms that clearly identified him as a non-combatant. Rodriguez looked surprised and grudgingly impressed by her restraint. "Good call," he admitted quietly. "I would have taken that shot." Elena continued her surveillance, noting details about the building's layout and the patterns of movement inside. Her patience was eventually rewarded when the actual target appeared in a third-floor window of a different building. The angle was challenging, requiring her to account for wind drift across nearly 700 yards. She made careful calculations, adjusting for atmospheric conditions and the target's movement pattern. When the moment came, Elena's shot was perfect. The simulation registered a confirmed kill, and their mission was complete with more than a day to spare. During the debrief, their performance was analyzed in detail. Elena's patience and accuracy were noted, though the praise remained measured. Rodriguez, to his credit, gave her full credit for the successful mission. Volkov made the right call on the civilian identification, he reported. And her shot was textbook perfect. "I learned something working with her." The acknowledgement from Rodriguez carried significant weight with the other recruits. He had been one of Elena's harshest critics, and his honest assessment began to shift opinions among the group. The final graduation ceremony was held the following week. 6 recruits had successfully completed the program, including Elena. As they stood at attention in their dress uniforms, Captain Thompson addressed the group. "You are now qualified military snipers," he announced. "But your real education begins when you reach your operational units. The skills you've learned here are just the foundation for what you'll need in actual combat." Elena felt a profound sense of accomplishment as she received her sniper qualification badge. Months of doubt, skepticism, and extra scrutiny had led to this moment. She had not only completed the program but had done so with distinction, even if that distinction wasn't always recognized. After the ceremony, Master Sergeant Davis approached her privately. "You've got assignments waiting," he said, handing her a sealed envelope. "There's interest in your skills from some specialized units." Elena opened the envelope and read the contents with growing excitement. She was being offered positions with elite units that most snipers could only dream of joining. The opportunities were beyond anything she had expected. "These are incredible assignments," she said, looking up at Davis with surprise. "Word gets around about exceptional performance," Davis replied. "The people who matter have been watching your progress. They're not interested in politics or prejudice, just results." Elena realized that while her instructors had been publicly restrained in their praise, they had been documenting her achievements and recommending her for advanced positions. The seemingly unfair treatment had actually been preparation for the intense scrutiny she would face in elite units. "There's one more thing," Davis added, producing a weapon case. "This is for you." Elena opened the case to reveal the custom rifle she had admired in the armory on her first day. The weapon was even more beautiful up close, with precision modifications and optics that represented the pinnacle of sniper technology. "I don't understand," Elena said, running her fingers over the rifle's smooth surface. "Every exceptional sniper gets a personalized weapon," Davis explained. "This one was built specifically for your measurements and shooting style. It's yours to take to your new assignment." Elena felt tears forming in her eyes as she realized the significance of the moment. The rifle wasn't just a tool. It was recognition of her place among the military's elite marksmen. All the doubt and skepticism had been overcome through sheer determination and skill. As she prepared to leave the training facility, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. She had proven that excellence transcended gender, that skill and dedication mattered more than preconceptions. The road ahead would bring new challenges, but she was ready to face them with confidence and pride. 6 months after graduation, Elena found herself deployed with an elite special operations unit in a conflict zone, where her skills would be tested under real combat conditions. The assignment was everything she had hoped for, and more challenging than anything she had experienced during training. Her unit was tasked with high-value target elimination and reconnaissance missions deep behind enemy lines. Her commanding officer, Colonel Morrison, was a veteran with 20 years of special operations experience. Unlike her training instructors, he seemed completely indifferent to Elena's gender and focused solely on her capabilities. During their first briefing, he reviewed her training records and previous mission reports with obvious approval. "Your instructors speak very highly of your technical skills and judgment under pressure," Morrison said. "In this unit, we don't care about anything except results. Can you deliver when lives are on the line?" "Yes, sir," Elena replied confidently. "I'm ready for whatever you need." Her first real combat mission came just 2 weeks later. Intelligence had identified a high-ranking enemy commander who was coordinating attacks against Allied forces. Elena and her spotter, Sergeant Walsh, were tasked with eliminating the target during a planned meeting at a remote compound. The mission required them to infiltrate enemy territory and establish a hide site within 800 yards of the target location. Elena spent days studying satellite imagery and planning their approach route. Every detail had to be perfect, as they would have no backup if things went wrong. They moved into position under cover of darkness, carrying enough supplies for a 3-day wait. Elena's fieldcraft skills, honed through months of rigorous training, allowed them to establish an almost invisible hide site in a rocky outcropping overlooking the compound. For 2 days, they waited in absolute silence, taking turns on watch and documenting movement patterns around the target building. Elena's patience proved crucial when the target finally appeared, but only for a brief moment and at an extremely challenging angle. The shot required precision that pushed the limits of her equipment and skills. Wind conditions were unfavorable, and the target was partially concealed behind vegetation. Elena made rapid calculations, accounting for every variable she could identify. When she squeezed the trigger, the bullet traveled nearly a second before finding its mark. The target dropped immediately, and Elena and Walsh began their carefully planned extraction route. The mission was a complete success, eliminating a key enemy leader and disrupting their operational planning. During the debrief, Colonel Morrison's praise was unqualified. "Textbook execution under difficult conditions," he noted in his report. "Volkov demonstrated the precision and judgment we expect from our best operators." Word of Elena's successful mission spread quickly through special operations channels. Her combination of technical excellence and calm performance under pressure caught the attention of commanders looking for snipers capable of handling the most demanding assignments. Over the following months, Elena completed a series of increasingly complex missions. She eliminated targets in urban environments, provided overwatch for extraction operations, and conducted reconnaissance that saved countless Allied lives. Each success built her reputation within the special operations community. Her fellow operators, initially skeptical like her training classmates, gradually came to respect and trust her abilities completely. Sergeant Walsh, her primary spotter, became a close friend and advocate who vouched for her skills to anyone who would listen. "I've worked with a lot of snipers," Walsh told their teammates after a particularly difficult mission. "Elena is as good as any of them and better than most. When she's behind the scope, I know the job will get done right." Elena's reputation reached a turning point during a rescue mission that went badly wrong. A special operations team had been captured while attempting to extract a high-value intelligence asset from enemy territory. Elena and her unit were called in to provide support for a dangerous rescue attempt. The rescue team was pinned down by enemy fire from multiple positions, taking casualties and unable to advance. Elena was positioned nearly a mile away, but her elevated position gave her clear sight lines to the enemy positions that were causing the most problems. Working with incredible speed and precision, Elena eliminated 6 enemy combatants in less than 3 minutes, allowing the rescue team to advance and extract their captured colleagues. Her shooting was so accurate and rapid that enemy forces became confused and disorganized, believing they were under attack from multiple directions. The rescued team leader, Captain Brooks, sought Elena out personally after the mission. "I have never seen shooting like that under combat conditions," he said with obvious admiration. "You saved a lot of lives today." Elena's performance during the rescue mission earned her a commendation for valor and cemented her status as one of the unit's most reliable operators. Requests for her participation in high-priority missions increased dramatically, and she found herself working with the most elite teams in the military. Colonel Morrison began assigning Elena to missions that were previously reserved for only the most experienced snipers. Her success rate remained perfect, and her reputation for calm professionalism under extreme pressure made her a sought-after team member. During a particularly complex urban operation, Elena was tasked with providing overwatch for a team conducting a sensitive intelligence-gathering mission. The operation required her to remain in position for over 8 hours while covering multiple potential threat vectors. When enemy forces attempted to surround the intelligence team, Elena's precise fire allowed them to escape without casualties. Her ability to rapidly engage multiple targets while maintaining situational awareness proved crucial to the mission's success. "She's not just a sniper," Colonel Morrison noted in his evaluation report. "She's a force multiplier who makes every team she works with more effective." Elena's confidence grew with each successful mission, but she never lost the humility and dedication that had carried her through training. She continued studying and improving her skills, knowing that complacency could be fatal in her line of work. As her deployment neared its end, Elena realized she had accomplished everything she had dreamed of when she first applied for sniper training. She had proven herself in the most demanding circumstances possible and earned the respect of the military's most elite operators. Elena's final mission before returning home would become the defining moment of her military career. Intelligence had identified a terrorist leader responsible for coordinating attacks that had killed dozens of civilians and Allied personnel. The target was heavily protected and moved constantly, making assassination attempts extremely difficult. The mission required Elena to work alone, infiltrating deep into hostile territory where backup would be impossible. Her target would appear at a remote mountain facility for a crucial meeting, but the window of opportunity would be extremely narrow. Colonel Morrison called Elena into his office for a private briefing. "This is a voluntary assignment," he said seriously. "The risks are substantial, and success is far from guaranteed. But you're the only sniper I trust with a shot this difficult under these conditions." Elena studied the mission parameters carefully. The target would be visible for perhaps 30 seconds at a range exceeding 200 yards in mountainous terrain with unpredictable wind conditions. The shot would require perfect calculation and flawless execution. "I'll take the mission," Elena said without hesitation. "When do I leave?" The infiltration took 3 days, moving carefully through enemy territory using routes mapped from satellite intelligence. Elena carried her custom rifle and minimal equipment, relying on stealth and patience to avoid detection. She established her hide site on a rocky ledge overlooking the target facility, nearly 3/4 of a mile away. The position offered excellent concealment, but required her to make one of the longest and most difficult shots of her career. Elena spent hours studying the terrain and atmospheric conditions, making precise calculations for the shot she would need to take. Wind patterns in the mountain valley were complex and constantly changing, requiring her to time her shot perfectly. On the morning of the target's arrival, Elena settled into position and began her final preparations. Through her scope, she could see activity around the facility, as security personnel prepared for the important meeting. When the target finally appeared, Elena had less than 20 seconds to acquire aim and fire. The distance was extreme, the wind conditions challenging, and the margin for error essentially zero. Everything she had learned during training and combat deployment came together in that crucial moment. Elena controlled her breathing, made final calculations for wind drift and bullet drop, and slowly squeezed the trigger. The shot felt perfect as it left the barrel, and Elena watched through her scope as the bullet traveled its long arc toward the target. The impact was devastating and immediate. The terrorist leader fell instantly, and chaos erupted around the facility as security forces scrambled to respond. Elena was already beginning her extraction, moving quickly but carefully away from her position. The elimination of such a high-value target sent shockwaves through the terrorist organization and significantly disrupted their operational capabilities. Elena's shot had been confirmed at 247 yards under extremely difficult conditions, making it one of the longest successful sniper eliminations in military history. When Elena returned to base, she found that news of her achievement had spread throughout the special operations community, Requests for interviews and commendations poured in, but Elena preferred to let her work speak for itself. Colonel Morrison presented her with a unit citation for exceptional service. "What you accomplished represents the pinnacle of snipercraft," he said during the ceremony. "This shot will be studied and remembered for decades to come." As Elena prepared to return home, she reflected on the journey that had brought her from a doubted recruit to one of the military's most accomplished snipers. The skepticism she had faced during training seemed like a distant memory, replaced by universal respect for her abilities. Her former training instructors requested a meeting before her departure. Master Sergeant Davis, who had been so reserved with praise during her training, was now openly admiring of her achievements. "You've exceeded every expectation we had," Davis told her. "Your success has opened doors for other women who want to follow this path. You've proven that excellence has no gender limitations." Elena was offered positions with various elite units and opportunities to become an instructor herself. The same facility where she had struggled for recognition now wanted her to help train the next generation of snipers. "I'd like to come back and teach," Elena said during her exit interview. "There are probably other recruits out there who could use an advocate and mentor." Elena's story became legendary within military circles, though many details remained classified for operational security. She had transformed from a recruit who faced constant skepticism to a sniper whose skills were acknowledged as exceptional by even the most elite operators. Years later, when new recruits arrived at the sniper training facility, they heard whispered stories about the female sniper, who had proven that determination and skill mattered more than prejudice. Her custom rifle was displayed in the facility's Hall of Honor, along with a simple plaque that read, "Excellence transcends expectation." Elena's codename during her special operations deployment had been Ghost, earned through her ability to appear and disappear without detection while delivering impossible shots. The name became synonymous with precision and professionalism among those who knew her story. When Elena eventually returned to training duty, she brought the same dedication to developing new snipers that she had applied to her own skills. Her students, both male and female, learned not just marksmanship techniques, but the mental toughness required to overcome doubt and achieve excellence. The troops who had once mocked her request for a rifle now spoke of her with deep respect and admiration. Elena had not just proven herself, she had redefined what it meant to be an exceptional sniper, leaving a legacy that would inspire future generations of military marksmen. Her story became a testament to the power of perseverance and the importance of judging people by their abilities rather than their appearance. In a profession where precision meant the difference between life and death, Elena had demonstrated that excellence was the only measure that truly mattered.